Chapter 371. Is your innate incompatibility to this extent? Thea was speechless. She only remembered that these two were fighting in the flashpoint paradox, but this wasn't the flashpoint. These two were fighting inexplicably. Thea wanted to stop them, but she didn't know where to start. She turned her head and was about to let the Arabian woman speak to persuade them to quickly bring her to get the staff. When she turned her head, she saw the brown woman's two leopards wagging their tails and begging the leopard girl. The leopard girl had woken up at some point, her yellow eyes emitting a terrifying light. The brown woman kept talking to Mira. The Sea King's wife looked a little unhappy, but she still raised her hands and a large amount of water appeared. She wanted to break the ice that trapped the leopard girl. Stop. Thea knew that this was very melodramatic, but she still had to exchange for Amanda's adult favor. She had to stop them from releasing the leopard girl. She didn't have time to wear her armor and instantly shot 3 flame arrows at Mira. Surface person. How dare you attack me? She didn't know if Mira's good relatives came today, but it was as if she was possessed by a brainless unhappiness. Her hands were surrounded by water, and the water was gently stroked by her and turned into dozens of cold arrows, meeting Thea's magic arrows. The 2 arrows met in the air. Thea's magic was more pure, and Mira's was more numerous. The 2 were evenly matched. Yawala, what are you doing? They're not bad people. The Arabian woman hurriedly pulled the brown woman who was about to attack Thea. Cassina, are you okay? But my animal companion said they're bad people? The brown woman, Yawala, also noticed the problem and hurriedly called for her pet. But the pet that could die for her in the past didn't respond to her call. The 2 leopards were trying their best to help the leopard girl escape. Looking at the leopard girl's beast-like vertical pupils, even a simple person would know that there was a problem. The helpless thing was that no matter how the brown woman called, the 2 leopards ignored her. If their claws were broken, they would bite them with their teeth. If their teeth were broken, they would hit them with their heads. The ice on the leopard girl's body gradually cracked. You too, stop the leopard. The woman in the ice has blood on her hands, don't let her come out. If you have more time, try to persuade this woman opposite me. Thea's strength was higher than Mela's, so she still had the time to observe the battlefield. The Sea King's 2 companions had no choice but to pull the 2 jaguars. The Arabian woman had been chased by the black manta ray for dozens of miles and was already exhausted. The brown woman, on the other hand, did not dare to be too harsh on her pet. One of them pulled the leopard's tail while the other pulled its leg. The leopard ignored them and only cared about saving the leopard girl. Idiot. Thea almost spat out a mouthful of blood. On the other side, Mela's eyes were bloodshot. She didn't even listen to Thea's explanation. The icicles, ice arrows, and water arrows didn't stop at all. On the other side, Diana could slightly suppress the Sea King, but she was very determined to protect the black manta ray. She could not break the stalemate in a short time. Help me stall those 2 jaguars. Thea released the moose that was stupidly sleeping in the ring and ordered in a low voice. The moose immediately felt the god of the cheetah in the leopard girl's body, especially when the other party stole the divine power of the moon goddess. This made the moose even more dissatisfied, but it still faithfully carried out Thea's order. As long as the 2 jaguars came close, it would use its antlers to push them back. Does this friend of yours understand English? Who can persuade her? Thea dealt with Mela's fierce attacks and was speechless. This couple was really a pair. They were really messing around. The Sea King's 2 companions hurriedly shouted, trying to stop Mela. However, the Queen of Atlantis acted as if she didn't hear them and continued to attack Thea fiercely. Needless to say, this must be the doing of the god of the cheetah in the leopard girl's body. The other party's methods were not brilliant, but it was triggered by Mela's bad temper. It was not without reason that Mela would be chosen by the angry Red Ring in the future. However, temper and strength were not the same. Even if she performed above her level, she was still inevitably suppressed by Thea. Her ability to control water came from her bloodline. It was definitely very powerful underwater, but on land, it was only a few things. Thea's single water attribute was not as good as her, but Thea's methods were extremely rich. Fireballs offset her ice arrows, wind blades, light spears, shadow arrows, and a large number of control and weakening spells, and threw them out. "I'll pull her away, you guys go and persuade the guy with the fork." Thea was afraid that the battle between the two would break the ice on the leopard girl's body, so she took out the light ring and put it on. Dense chains appeared and bound Mela and flew into the distance. After running out of a certain range, the mind control effect would disappear, and the other party would wake up. Thea calculated well, but she flew a little too fast, and the two women on the ground were one step slower. She did not take the Sea King into account. "You dare to hurt my wife." The Sea King saw Thea running away with Mela tied up, and immediately became anxious. Risking being hit by Diana's sword, the trident in his hand gathered a large amount of lightning, and a wash-basin-sized lightning ball was thrown at Thea. "Do you think you're the only one who can use lightning?" This stupid couple really made Thea a little angry. She took out the magical longbow, knocked Zeus's lightning arrow, and shot an arrow at the lightning ball below. The lightning ball from the Sea King's trident was white, like a storm brewing in the sea. Thea's lightning arrow was dark blue, as peaceful as the sky, but in this tranquility, there was a fatal danger. Two divine weapons that could emit the power of lightning welcomed the first collision since the day they were created. One was like a roar from the sea, the other was like a divine punishment from the sky. The divine weapon of Atlantis represented the last glory of the lost civilization, firm, tenacious, and unquestionable. Thea's Zeus arrow was also mixed with the god supreme, great, and invincible spirit. The two different colored lightning finally met, and time seemed to freeze. The first second was calm, as if the previous fierce scene did not exist, but in the next second, the two balls of energy finally exploded violently. Boom! The two balls of energy disappeared, and the sound of the explosion seemed to pierce through the air. The huge energy spread in all directions, and the two women who were about to explain could only lie down on the ground to avoid the shock wave that swept across the rainforest in a radius of 10 miles. This round of collision seemed to be evenly matched, but the Sea King was injured by Diana, and the trident's charging time was too short, so it did not fully exert the power of the divine weapon. Thea was even more hurried to fight. Her lightning magic needed to be mixed with fire, wind, and water elements. The power she shot out was only the power of the arrow, and it was far from her maximum damage limit. Both of them were very unhappy, and at the same time, they gathered energy and prepared for the next round of attack. Although Mela was confused, she still recognized the Sea King. She broke free from the chains and wanted to fight Thea together. Diana naturally could not just stand by and watch, so she stopped Mela. The four of them exchanged opponents, and prepared to fight the second round in confusion. Chapter 372. Diana often sparred with Thea, so she had ample experience in dealing with elemental energy. Mira's ability to control water was only slightly troublesome to her, but not fatal. She blocked the ice arrows and water arrows with her shield and slashed continuously with the Vulcan sword in her hand. Mira could only mobilize a large amount of water elements to form a shield to block the attacks. On the other hand, Thea's battle with the Sea King was not as gentle as theirs. The thunder element had always been unruly and was known to shake the 9 heavens. Energy exploded, and the sound and light effects were dazzling. The battle between the two had reached its climax right from the start. The Sea King was beaten silly by the two women, and had long forgotten what he wanted to do. Thea, on the other hand, wanted to see how powerful the Sea King's trident was. The lightning arrows in her hand did not stop, and she shot them one after another. Sometimes, she even condensed her own magic into the lightning arrows to launch a surprise attack on the Sea King. "Come down if you dare." The Sea King was in a passive position. He was almost invincible in the water, but his strength on land was reduced by a lot. Most importantly, he could not fly. After being hit by Thea for a long time, the Sea King, who was already angry, could no longer suppress his violent temper. Thea, who was hovering in mid-air, did not just shoot arrows. She also threw a few weakening spells from time to time. However, it was unknown whether it was because of the trident in his hand or because of his Atlantean bloodline, but the Sea King's magic resistance was surprisingly high. Among the people that Thea had met, only Diana had a higher magic resistance than him. She could resist 9 out of 10 spells, and the remaining spell could only last for a short time. Fear. Simple spells could not take him down, so Thea could only mix emotional energy into her spells. With the help of spells, the power of the lamp was continuously channeled into the Sea King's heart. This time, he could not resist. The death of his father, the supercilious looks of the people around him, the betrayal of his companions, and all kinds of tragic scenes surrounded his mind. Arthur. Seeing that her husband was in danger, Mela finally broke free from the control of the cheetah god. Her eyes regained their clarity, she raised her arm and took Diana's sword head-on with her wrist guard. Then, she flew up and created a large amount of ice to protect her husband. She completely ignored her own safety and looked at Thea and Diana vigilantly. Since it was a misunderstanding, Thea naturally did not continue to attack. She turned to look at the captive. What she saw infuriated her. Previously, the Black Manta had been tied up by Diana's lasso, but as the battle escalated, Diana had left him in the custody of the Sea King's 2 companions. The Black Manta had taken advantage of their unpreparedness and launched a sudden attack, injuring the Arabian woman. He then snatched the bag from her back and ran into the depths of the forest. The brown woman had to take care of her injured companion and hold back her 2 jaguar pets. Her brain, which was not smart to begin with, was completely muddled. Thea originally wanted to chase after the Black Manta, but the Panther Lady had already escaped. Although there was still a lot of ice on her body, she could barely run. How dare you run? Thea took out a lightning arrow and shot it. At the same time, she called for Diana to chase after her. The Sea King and Mela, who realized that they had made a mistake, saw that their companion was not in mortal danger and also helped to block them. Although the Panther Lady was powerful, her previous injuries were not light. She could not beat any of the 4 people now. In less than 3 kilometers, she was surrounded, beaten up, and captured again. This time, they did not dare to let their guard down. Perhaps the Panther Lady was not a threat, but the cheetah god in her body was indeed troublesome. Especially the other party's method of silently bewitching people's minds, it made them a little annoyed. Fortunately, there was still science to solve things that magic could not solve. Thea asked the elk to go back to sleep. Then, she picked out a few pieces of metal from the space ring. These pieces of metal were specially made by Batman to prevent the mind control of the Martian hunter. The composition was unknown, and the origin was unknown. It was a proper black technology product. Damien took it from his father in order to study the relationship between science and magic. Thea modified it into a headband on the spot and put it on the Panther Lady's head. From afar, it looked like the hoop spell, but the other party's mental fluctuations could not be emitted. After tying up the Panther Lady tightly, Thea got up and greeted them. The brown woman, Walla, apologized to Thea first. Her jaguar was the first to be bewitched. The 2 leopards were very pitiful now that they were out of control. They also lowered their heads cooperatively and whimpered, begging for forgiveness. Thea now had a special love for animals. She had come into contact with a lot of elk, gorilla, shark, and unicorn. She touched the big heads of the 2 leopards and felt that they were very nice. She wondered if she should ask Walla later if there were any little leopards so that she could take one back and play with it. The 2 leopards' claws were broken, their teeth were missing, and their bodies were dirty. Thea threw out 2 cleansing spells, and their bodies were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. The Arabian woman, Cassina, next to her, covered her shoulder that had been pierced by the black manta ray. She looked very pitiful. Thea thought about it and also threw a healing spell at her. The 2 sides exchanged their names. Thea said her real name. She thought that she would receive some exclamations like, "So it's you," and other exclamations, but these people's reactions surprised her. They were either hermits, savages, or simply Atlanteans. They had never heard of Thea's name. The slightly depressed Thea ran to the side to tease the two leopards. The two leopards were healed by her and their intimacy with her greatly improved. If it were not for their deeper ties with Ja Walla, they would most likely have gone back to Star City with her. The rest of the people were not in the mood. The Arabian woman told them that she had been chased by the black manta ray all the way. She was quite happy that her nemesis was captured by two passers-by. She did not expect that after a melodramatic battle, the duck in her hand flew away. Not only did the duck fly away, but it also injured her and stole one of the god of death's divine weapons, the golden seal. This lady's divine weapon. The Arabian woman pointed at Diana. The black manta ray told the truth. He wanted to get 3 divine weapons, activate the mark of the tomb, and find the 7th divine weapon of the god of death. The Arabian woman, Cassina, told them everything she knew. I want to gather my companions and deal with the black manta ray together, the Sea King declared enthusiastically. Mira looked at him lovingly. Thea pursed her lips. You have a few mutants with a bunch of divine weapons. You want to besiege an ordinary person, but you're shouting so righteously. Do you have any shame? Do you need our help? Thea did not say anything. Diana, who had a strong sense of justice, spoke up. We don't need your help, Greek. Mira looked at Diana cautiously. Her husband had too many women around him. Cassina and Ja Walla claimed that they were her husband's companions, but she had never heard him mention them. Mira, who was blindly in love, was like a female beast, watching every woman who approached her husband.